that's us hopefully going out live for first shot of Wee Happy Few Uncle Jack live VR. Yes. I think I got all that. All of that correct there. So yeah. Again, had this for a while. That's the right way round. So we've got Uncle Jack live. Quite good music in it so far. We're hitting that. It's waiting for PlayStation VR. Sorry, what? Joy ventilation.
That sounds like the ventilator's a bit off. Shame. It sends a lovely whiff of joy into the air. Terribly sorry about the telly in there. People keep stepping on the cable. Oh, we're back again. Hello there. You must be the winner of the Uncle Jack Fan Club's Get to Know Jack contest. At least I hope you are. Well, the bobbies at the front door have been very sloppy indeed. As you know, I'm Uncle Jack, and I'm always happy to meet my fans, especially if they can help me. Over on your right, you'll see the news feeding machine. That's how you feed me the news stories I'm supposed to read. To your right. Your right.
This? This what you're on about, Jack? Uncle Jack?
You'll see 3 news stories to choose from. Do try to give me a happy one, won't you? Sometimes the writers get a little mischievous. You can only feed me news after I finish reading the previous story. The machine will light up to tell you when to send me more. Isn't technology wonderful?
That's pretty good, eh? What about this one? Gibbon a crackpot.
Finish the story I'm reading before you send me another one. You wouldn't want me to get muddled, would you? No. Of course not.
Maybe. I don't know. I'll send you this
Just
one.
press the
Sorry, man. Sorry.
Oh, splendid. I'm sure you'll do a smashing job producing my show today.
Yeah.
Just remember that we only wanted to see good news. Fortunately, all the news is right as good. Here we go.
Good
On
news.
in 5, 4, 3.
I sent you one that isn't good news, I think. Who's Gibbon? Huh. There he's there.
And now it's time for the Good News Hour with Uncle Jack. That's me, Jack Worthing. I'll give you all the news you need to start your afternoon with a smile. How long have we wellies enjoyed joy? 10, 12 years? It seems Hamelin amateur historian E.B. Gibbon now claims that a form of joy came to England with the Norman Conquest in 1066. Always scribble, 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 eh, Mr. Gibbon? Well, Mr. Gibbon identifies several joy capsules in the Bayeux Tapestry. However, other scholars maintain that they are merely commas. Well, despite not having been able to convince the smug elites in their ivory towers, Gibbon remains optimistic and, of course, very happy indeed.
Foggy Jack strikes again. There you go.
Inspector Royston Luckenbill, oh dear, reminds the public that the alleged murderer, known as Foggy Jack, does not exist. No, he's just a fairy tale, states Inspector Luckenbill, and we all know how horrible those are. There are definitely no victims found in the street in the morning with certain organs surgically removed. No. And even if there were, what on earth were those people doing out after dark, eh? Everyone except the constables should be at home listening to Uncle Jack's bedtime stories. I'm sure that the girls in question were just running carelessly with scissors. Oh, yes, well, as we all know, one can't be too careful doing arts and crafts, can one? Oh.
What about Islands on the Move?
Next card, please.
Sorry, aye. It's hard. It's hard.
Let's see what my producer has handed me now, shall we?
Yeah. That's me.
Yes. There we go.
Ah.
The Geological Society has awarded its highest honor to Charles Hutton Lyell for his recent discoveries on seismology. For years, the citizens of Wellington Wells have complained that they become lost as familiar landmarks appear in unexpected places.
Sorry, I should be reading this.
And here I thought it was just me forgetting where everything was. His new research proves that this phenomenon is not at all in your head. Our city happens to be located in an area of unusual seismic activity. Things really do move around. What a special place we live in, don't we? Perseverance makes honor bright. Next card, please.
Machines. You're going to like this one.
We don't know who thought it would be amusing, but some of the village compliment machines have been offering rather backhanded praise. A citizen heard one say, "You look well for your age." And what a creative hairdo. The executive committee has ordered a full inspection of village compliment machines. Should you encounter a cheeky compliment machine, kindly turn it off using the large red button and then report it to the nearest police constable. And don't worry, darling. You really do look marvelous. Next card, please.
New Simon Says host. Missing cat. Missing cat.
News item. Mrs. Helen Dainty offers a reward to anyone returning her beloved cat, Sebastian, who went missing at the village picnic. Sebastian can be recognized by his adorable pointy face, pink eyes, long hairless tail, yellow teeth, and jaunty pink bow. Sounds like an adorable kitty, doesn't he? If you see Sebastian, please catch him and return him to Miss Dainty at Thomasina House. And don't eat him. That would be rude. Oh, that was a bit of excitement, wasn't it? Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Yes. Our producer did a pretty swell job for a fan, don't you think, eh?
What's happening out there? Jack.
Well, wasn't that exciting? I do wish you could be here, dear viewers. It looks like somebody's having a party in the visitors' gallery. There are so many happy, excited people there. So many. Perhaps somebody ought to check in and, make sure that they're not breaking anything. People tend to get carried away sometimes, don't they? Do you know what makes a party even better? Why, joy, of course. Yes, I bet we'd all have an even better time if somebody would just flood the visitors' gallery with joy, right? You can never be too careful. Any time now. What sort of... nice to hear that lovely joy gasp.
Wow.
Under your smile.
No one really wants that little sight.
Be afraid, all you gotta do is run. 'Cause when we were young, we just a child and we start to. All we do is smile. Let's try a stranger on for a while.
Nice.
Something could change.
That was cool.
A brand new start.
It was really short, but that was good.
Hide all the raindrops under your tongue. They're only tears. There's nothing to fear.
Nice. So I'll hit archives and see what that does as well. That was not bad though. A wee short experience. What is all this? What you got for us? Wakey Wakey.
And it's another fabulous day in Wellington Wells. The sun is up, and the weather is overcast and only slightly rainy, with occasional patches of lovely sunshine. Wakey, wakey, everyone. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning, dear friends. Good morning to you. Well, I hope you all had a lovely night's sleep with lovely dreams. It's shaping up to be a wonderful morning, and I think I can promise you that it's just going to get better all through the day. We all forget things from time to time, so don't forget the most important thing. Is it your tea? Is it your muesli? Is it bacon and eggs? Is it toast? Did you forget to butter your toast? No, don't be silly. It's your daily joy. Never forget to take your joy, and I guarantee your day will go swimmingly.
See.
So, let's take a look at today's schedule. What's going on in the village of Hamlin? Well, chatting and greeting and smiling and laughing, of course, and breakfast, lunch and dinner, and work, 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 work. But at 3, I hope you'll all take a quick break for our daily recreational activity. Today we will all gather round the telly for a rousing round of Simon Says. Well, I won't be gathering round the telly. I'll be in the telly. Just like every day, I'll be playing it with you. And then there'll be cake and prizes for all winners, and everyone's a winner, and everyone will be there. So don't miss it, or you're a rotten egg. But seriously, unless you have an awfully good reason, such as 2 broken legs, do be a sport at 3 o'clock, won't you? We love your company. And now, the hot new song from our favourite band. See you soon.
Okay. So that was like Wakey Wakey. Let's go for no. Oh, shoot it. I dropped the story trailer. It's back. Sorry, what's happened? Something scary. Happening. Passing that pipe. This one just a whole... It is good music, yeah. The music at the end of the first part was really good. We'll go for everything but the trailer, right? So we'll go for Wah Wah Wah. Because, I mean, I'm probably going to get copyright notices. Oh, that's... it's nice, though. The melody has a weirdly Simon Hill feel to it, even though it's a bit more jazzy. What are the colours? I'm making that wiggle a bit. But yeah, let's go for Wah Wah Wah. Baby's going to be insane. Nice. It's Uncle Jack again. He's quite off his nut, this guy, but he's funny.
Hello. Welcome to today's edition of Humor Hour, the show where you tell me jokes. Well, actually, I tell the jokes, but you send them in. And the first joke comes from Mr. Prentice Gibson of Claverton Down. Mr. Gibson says, what do you call three downers at the bottom of the sea? Not enough downers. Very good. We're starting off very strong today, aren't we? This one is from Brian E. Ditton of Collier's Lane. What's the difference between a downer and a trampoline? You take off your shoes before you jump on a trampoline. How true! How very true! Because you don't want to damage a perfectly good trampoline, do you? Very good indeed.
You made that one, Jack.
This is from Mrs. Jemima Hughes of Coronation Avenue. And her joke is, if you see a drowning downer, what do you throw him? I don't know, a brick, an anvil? Well, no, you can't very well throw an anvil, can you? What about a grenade? No. Who has grenades these days? Another downer! I told you it was good. That's wonderful. It's very good. You see, they both drown. Here's another one. How do you save a drowning downer? Answer, who cares?
I see.
Very good. Lovely jokes. Lovely jokes today. Very funny indeed. And here's one from, not that one, no, this one here. It's from Clive Pritchard of Sladebrook Road. Mr. Pritchard. What's he have for us today? Question. How is a puppy like a mortally wounded downer? Answer. Eventually they'll both stop whining. Oh, Mr. Pritchard, you're quite a character, aren't you? Oh. You know, I miss my dog.
Oh.
What am I saying? I don't miss anything at all. I've got it all right here. Let's see what else we've got.
Did he pretend to take that there?
Something from our dear friend and faithful contributor, Mr. Persky Blackyan.
Is he doing Equilibrium? Spoilers.
Yes, as you can tell from his name, Mr. Blackyan isn't actually a real Englishman. He's an Afrikaner from South Africa, but he's doing his patriotic best to fit in. So, what do you have for us today, Mr. Blackyan? Question. How is a downer like an apple? Answer. They both look good hanging from a tree.
Oofed.
I'm not sure I get it. Oh, I see. Yes, very good. Hanging from a tree. Here's another one. What's the difference between a downer and a black plague? Well, one is a deadly organism that can destroy an entire city, and the other is a bacterium. Oh, very good. Well, I think it's going to be hard to top that one, but we must slog on, eh? It's one of our greatest English virtues. I have one here from Mr. Thomas Henchley of Longbottom Circle. What have you got for us, Mr. Henchley? Question. Why do we bury downers 20 feet underground? Answer. Because deep down, they're really nice people. Deep down, yeah. I think that's the best one of all. It really is. Very good. Remember, no one has to be a downer, but if you feel a bit down, take your joy. And if you see someone who seems a bit down, make sure he takes his joy. It's as simple as that. Happiness is a choice, and those who won't choose it are a threat to the rest of us. If you hear a good joke, please don't hesitate to drop a note marked Humour Hour at our studio, 2 Marlborough House in central Wellington Wells. Yes, I'm afraid we've got to the end of our time. Tune in again next time for the best in humour. See you soon.
Yeah, so we had the humour hour. It's time for a wah wah wah. No, picked up the wrong one there. Here we go, got it. Wah wah wah. Oh, what was that noise? Good. Only your love rescue me. La 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 la. So we've only got the story trailer left. It looks like they made quite a lot of these. So maybe there's more than that once you... Oh, right, sorry, wow. Story trailer.
Truth is the enemy of happiness. Isn't that the decision we all made?
Oh, but you know the truth, don't you? There's not a thing I can tell you that you don't already know. Is there?
Have you had your joy, Ollie?
People in town are getting a tad bit skinny. I think they're starving to death. And they're painting the streets in fucking rainbows. Have you not noticed?
Oh, Ollie.
Why are you all wearing those ridiculous new masks?
You should get one. They shape your face into a smile. And when you smile, you can't help being happy.
We have to tell people. They need to know the truth.
No! It's better not to know.
Wakey Wakey, everyone. And it's another fabulous day in Wellington Wells. Do what you should be doing, and you never have to worry.
Sally?
Arthur, we're practically the only two people in this entire city not stoned out of our minds on joy.
It's not a lovely day for it. It's a fucking terrible day for it.
You force people to have the emotions you want and you've turned them into robots made out of meat.
Where is it? Where's the blackberry?
You've gone too far this time.
People won't face facts. Not until we take their joy. And when we do that, they'll murder each other in the street.
Was that, was it good? Has anybody played that? I feel like it was on early access or something. Is that what this is going to be? How do I get a key? Use key to unlock. How do you... Where's the key? Was that a different colour? It said locked before, didn't it? So, like, say if I put in Wakey Wakey.
And it's another fabulous day in Wellington Wells.
Sorry,
The sun is
sorry.
up, and the weather is overcast and only slightly rainy, with occasional...
No, no, no. Thank you. Where's this key? How do you get the key to appear? Are these all kid on or are these other ones? It seems like an awful lot of extra words to be putting on for like a joke. And why have the buttons that turn? Use key on lock. Oh, I did just use the key on the lock. Unbelievable. There really are that many? This is a lot. But, alright. Let's go for well. Got a lot of viewing. With Jack here.
And welcome to today's edition of Well, the show where we talk about how to be your physical best. Now, we all know how to be our mental best, don't we? If you're feeling a bit listless and down, there's a simple and easy answer. Pop a joy. You can't be too happy now, can you? Being a citizen of Wellington Wells means never having to feel sorry for yourself. But this is the show where we talk about being your physical best. If you're feeling a bit sick, it's nice to be happy, but you still don't want to drop dead even if you're smiling all the way, do you? Well, actually, it's not a bad way to go, I suppose. But let's talk about coughing. England is a drafty, wet country, and we all get colds from time to time. When you think about it, jams love the wet, and they stay fresh in the cold. So, if you're coughing from time to time, well, there's nothing to worry about, and there's nothing to do about it either. Now, some people get very worried if they're coughing up blood. And indeed, yes, that might be a sign of something nasty like cancer or pulmonary embolism, things that we don't have any way to treat anymore. Of course, it could just be a sign of bronchitis. If you've had a nasty cough for a while and you're just coughing and coughing and coughing and wheezing, then you probably do have bronchitis. So, see if you can get your hands on some old cough drops, or if you haven't any left, drink plenty of tea, rest as much as you can, and try not to cough, and it'll probably eventually go away. But coughing up blood is, like it or not, also a traditional sign of tuberculosis. Yes, tuberculosis is a nasty, infectious disease that we just about eliminated from England before the war. Guess who brought it back to us? I won't tell you, but they weren't mermen, and they weren't called Herman, and they didn't come to preach a sermon. Yes, well, some of them were called Herman. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. How do you know if it is tuberculosis? Well, another symptom is night sweats. If your sheets are soaking wet in the morning, well, then you've had night sweats. And we know you're not having night sweats from worrying, are you? Not if you're taking your joy. Fever is another symptom. But by itself, it could be just a bad cold. But with night sweats and coughing up blood, well, you might start to wonder. Of course, the most famous sign of tuberculosis is losing weight. Victims of tuberculosis waste away. That's why it's called consumption. That's why it used to be called consumption. Now, if you're not getting enough to eat, of course, you're losing weight, so don't worry. But if you are lucky enough to be getting enough to eat, and you're still losing a lot of weight, and you're coughing up blood, well, then you very well have tuberculosis. What can you do if you have tuberculosis? Well, the most important thing you can do is to make sure that no one else gets it. Don't cough at anyone, don't spit on the street, and wash your hands often with soap. Get yourself to a doctor as soon as you can, and they'll be sure to get you to a place where you can be taken care of properly, and that you won't infect anyone else. What if you suspect someone close to you has tuberculosis? Be sure to tell the nearest doctor. They'll know how to be sure if your husband or wife or friend has it, and what to do about it. Don't keep it a secret, or you might catch it too. Be very careful with any handkerchiefs or clothes or sheets that someone might have coughed blood on. They should be washed thoroughly with soap and bleach if you can get it, and they should be hung out to dry at least until a warm, sunny day dries them out, because nothing disinfects like sunlight. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask a doctor. You know doctors, they're always looking out for you. And remember, be your own doctor. No matter what you do, be sure you're taking enough joy. There's no more excuses for feeling bad. You don't have to. Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again tomorrow when we'll see if there's any truth to the rumors about leprosy. I'll tell you a secret. They're all false. This is Dr. Jack Worthing, and this is my prescription. Get plenty of sleep and exercise, and you'll be well, well, well. Goodbye.
So, I mean, that was well. You alright, Jack? We got Taste Amazing. No, sorry. Not 1996. We've got Taste Amazing 2 to watch. That tastes amazing. What is it?
Ah, hello.
Oh, well.
Welcome to today's edition of That Tastes Amazing. What is it? This is the show where we help you expand your nutritional horizons. You know, you can eat a lot more things than you've ever dreamt of. And I'm here to show you what. Now today, we're going to talk about the wonderful world of edible weeds. You might think the orach plant is just a roadside weed, but our friend Natriplex patula bears thousands of seeds which you can gather in the autumn, and they'll keep all year long, if you haven't already snaffled them up. Yummy! Now grind them as you would any other kind of cornmeal, and you can blend them into your flour supply. You can also use them to thicken your soup. And don't waste the rest of the plant. You can eat the young leaves in salads, and you can cook up the old leaves like spinach. Goosefruit salad and orach bread. What a filling meal. And it's all free. Yes. That is a nettle. Now, who wants to eat a nettle, really? Well, gorillas, for one. They love nettles. They eat thistles and nettles every chance they get. But I don't suppose you're a gorilla. And if you are, well, you're hiding it very well, and bravo for you. Of course, artichokes are basically monstrously large thistles. But you already know about artichokes. This isn't an artichoke. It's not even a thistle. It's a nettle. Urtica dioica is a tall plant with a thick root we call a rhizome. And the whole plant is just packed with vitamins. In fact, it's quite medicinal. You can use it to treat sore muscles, eczema, arthritis, gout, and anemia. Though I doubt any of you have the gout, eh? That's the one thing about our present thrifty lifestyle as sailors, eh? Now, be careful, because this is called a stinging nettle for a reason. It's got lots of sharp, stinging, tiny hairs. And each of these tiny hairs is hollow and contains a drop of formic acid. That's what ants bite you with. And when the hair pierces your skin, it injects the acid. You'll have an annoying, burning sensation that can last for minutes or even days, and you won't have got it from anything fun, will you? No. So, best thing to do is to wear gloves. If you do get stung, try rubbing the sting with the root of the plant. Might make the itch go away, and in any event, it'll make you look and feel rather clever. Then you're going to do one of two things once you've harvested it. You can cook it, or you can dry it. You probably don't like eating your vegetables dry, unless you're a cow, in which case you're hiding it very well. Bravo, you. And do let me know where you live so I can eat you up. Now, what you ought to do is cook it as you would cook spinach. In fact, it tastes a great deal like spinach. And did I mention that it's packed with vitamins? Yes, I did. Well, it is. You can also put it in soups and stews. The best leaves are the young, light green ones, but beggars can't be choosers. You can even make it into tea. But everyone knows you can eat weeds, and who hasn't eaten a yummy dandelion salad? Clover has a lovely lemony taste. You can eat it raw, but like all proper English food, it's much better if you boil it for at least half an hour. Chicory is best known as tea, but you can eat the whole plant. The young leaves you can eat raw, and the flowers make a great snack. And if you put the roots in a stew, it'll add flavour, bulk, vitamins, and calories. Sheep sorrel is a common weed like acid soil, like your common English bog. Don't eat too much of it, it's full of oxalates. But the leaves have a very nice tart flavour. Just remember, all of these plants are edible, especially if you boil them. And if you're not sure about a plant, just put it in a soup. A little of the wrong will almost never kill you, as long as you mix it in with lots of good stuff. Just eat a little at first, and if it doesn't upset your stomach, eat a little bit more the next time. Soon you'll be chowing down like a cow. But you're not a cow, or I'm coming to your house for dinner. I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. This is Uncle Jack wishing you an amazing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Tune in next time when we explore the fabulous world of edible insects. Did you know you can eat maggots? They're nutritious and scrumptious.
So... So were all these in the game? Or is this like promo stuff for it? I feel bad jumping into 1996 when I've not seen any of the other 99. So we've seen Wakey Wakey 1. We really should have went that way around, shouldn't we? I can't believe all of these are going to be real. Sorry, missed the titles.
Well, it's getting late, isn't it?
A wee bit.
And it's time for all good citizens to be getting ready to go to bed.
Huh.
Would you like me to read you a bedtime story?
I suppose.
Of course you would. I haven't finished the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, have I? Well, gather round the telly, citizens, gather round. I'll tell you how it ends. We last left the town of Hamelin filled with rats. Horrible rats, eating them out of house and home. But a piper in a motley coat has promised to get rid of every last rat by playing music to them. But he expects a lot of money, and they've agreed to pay for it. What will happen? The next day, the piper came into town, and this time he had a different pipe with him. It was a tiny pipe, made of horn, and no one could even hear the music that it played. But soon, out of every barn and every field, out of every kitchen and every storehouse, all of the rats of the town swarmed towards the Pied Piper. They came out of the church, they came out of the town hall, they came up out of the well, they came out of the cupboards, they came out of the haystacks. Soon, the entire village square was covered in rats, until you could not see a bare patch of dirt. And then, the piper began to walk. He walked away from the village. He walked into the dark forest in a direction that no one thought had a path. No one knew exactly where he went, for no one wanted to go anywhere near the enormous swarm of rats. Well, the villagers celebrated. They took their cheese out of their strong boxes, and they took their bread out of their stone ovens. Everything they'd been afraid of the rats eating, they took out. But as the villagers were settling down to drinking, the Pied Piper returned, and he told the people, "And now, it is time to pay the piper." Well, the villagers, they were wicked people. They asked the piper if he'd killed all the rats, and he promised that they'd never see the rats again. At this, the villagers were delighted. "Why should we pay the piper?" they asked each other. "The rats are gone." They told him to be off, and when he demanded his money, they beat him until he was bleeding, and they threatened to throw him in the well until he drowned. The piper left, and they thought that they'd never see him again. But the next morning, the piper was back. This time, he had a very large, long pipe made out of long, long bone. You could still see the bruises on his face as he walked into the village square. But he did not seem afraid. He did not seem like a man who could ever be afraid. The villagers gathered to warn him off. Hadn't he had enough punishment? Be off with him? Then he began to play his long bone pipe. The sounds were so low that no one could hear him. But they were all struck dumb, and they found that they could not move to strike the piper, nor could they leave. And out of every house came every villager who was not already in the town square, out of the church, and out of the town hall, and out of the pub, and out of the baker's, and out of the cheese shop. Even the lame smith limped from his forge to the town square. And then the piper began to walk. He walked away from the village. He walked into the dark forests in a direction that no one thought had a path. And the villagers all followed him. Only the lame smith couldn't keep up, although he tried his best. And it's a good thing too, for otherwise we'd never know what happened. For the villagers disappeared into the dark woods. The smith lost all track of them. Among the trees he could not tell what direction the piping was, and soon he couldn't hear it at all for the songs of the birds and the whisper of the trees. He lay down, and he wept for a day and a night, for the music had so moved him that he wished he'd been fast enough to follow it. The smith came out of the forest. He came to an inn, and there he told the story of the villagers of Hamlin, and he waited a year and a day for them to come back. And on the 366th day, he hanged himself. The town of Hamlin rotted in the rain until nothing was left of it but misshapen mounds that strangers thought must be from ancient times. The villagers, they were never seen again. Nor was the piper, though perhaps he was. For there are villages in old books that are not there now, and who knows if they too vanished in the woods to the piper's tune. Who knows if this is a true story or just a fairy tale? But somehow, you know that it must be true, because who could invent such a horror? That's the story of the Pied Piper of Hamlin. What a wonderful story. I hope you enjoyed hearing it as much as I enjoyed telling it. And remember, stay at home at night or terrible things may happen in the dark. And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again tomorrow for another bedtime story. Good night all. See you tomorrow.
It was good. I was relaxed until that bit about, didn't go outside because terrible things will happen in the dark. Let's go for News Hour 9. No, I hear you 5. News Hour 9. That one. Is there really going to be... How many of these? 60?
Well, look at you. What are you doing? Yes, that's right. I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
What on earth do you think you're doing? Are you where you should be?
Yes.
Are you doing what you should be doing?
Yes.
Of course you are.
Aye.
Let's face it. There's nowhere we'd rather be and nothing we'd rather be doing than living our lives here and now in Wellington Wells, eh? We're all so fortunate to be proud Englishmen and women. Because no matter what we've been through, we're all alive and happy, and so many others are not. I just want you to meditate on that essential fact of our existence. This is Uncle Jack saying, it's easy to smile when you've so much to be thankful for, but just because it's easy, it doesn't mean that it's not true.
That was quite a frightening one. It was short though. I hear you. I hear you 5. I've unlocked another key.
And now, it's once again time for I Hear You, the part of our show where Jack Worthing, that's me, answers your letters and questions about our life in Wellington Wells. Let's see what Rosalie Millie Scott has to say. Wait a second. Do I detect a hint of roses? Oh, Rosalie. If this is a love letter, it's going to be very embarrassing when I read it out in the air. Dear Uncle Jack. Well, that's better, isn't it? Whose uncle are you? Are you my uncle? I don't remember having an uncle. Dear Rosalie. Oh, how I wish I were your uncle. Because you seem like a lovely girl. But I'm not biologically anybody's uncle. I just feel like I'm an uncle. And many of your fellow viewers feel like I'm their uncle too. So it just sort of grew like dandelions. And you know how difficult it is to uproot dandelions? They just keep growing back. Which is lovely because you can eat them. Did you know that? But I digress. The way uncles do, eh? All you need to know, my dear, is that I feel as fond of you as any uncle ever could. I hope you feel just as fond of me. All right, Rosalie? Good. This one is from... I think it's from... Ah, yes, it's from Dermot Nightingale of Gascoigne House, Upper Borough Walls. Dear Uncle Jack, a few days ago, I saw a bunch of citizens chasing someone down Milk Street. They ran right past me, so naturally, I was swept up in the flow, and soon I was chasing the man down the street as well. And I'm pretty sure we caught up with him. But I can't remember what happened next. I think we beat him, but I can't remember if we killed him or not. Do you know who he was, and did we kill him? Do you know why we were chasing him? Well, dear Dermot, I don't think you should worry about this sort of thing. If a whole bunch of citizens were chasing someone down the street, I think we can safely say that that someone did something wrong. After all, there's only one of him. There's lots of you, so you win the vote. Anyway, what's past is past. And we've all done things that weren't perfect. Listen, if we spent all our time worrying about the things that we've done, well, we'd never be able to enjoy our day. So feel better. Pop a few extra joy today, and I bet in the morning you won't even remember what you were so upset about. I'm so glad I was able to help. Well, I did so enjoy hearing from all of you, my dear listeners. Yes, I love these letters. This one is from Mr. Fitzloyd Dix of Monmouth Place. Dear Uncle Jack, I haven't been feeling entirely well these past few days. I feel rather tired, and it's hard to get out of bed. So I asked my husband to get this letter for you. Oh dear, I hope this isn't going to be a medical question. I've already called the doctors once today. No, it isn't. I've noticed an odd thing. On the roof across from my bedroom, I've noticed an awful lot of chickens. They just fly up there and watch me through my open window. The peculiar thing is, they're all black with sharp black beaks, and all they do all day is go caw, caw, caw. Why are there chickens on my neighbour's roof? I've never noticed them there before. Dear Mrs. Dix, I think it's likely that those are not chickens at all, but rather I think they might be crows. Crows are blackbirds that sit on rooftops and caw. Now, they may have noticed that you're not stirring from your bed, and they're there trying to keep you company while you recover. Isn't that sweet of them, eh? But I'm a little bit worried about that open window of yours. You don't want to catch a cold, eh, from the draught? Perhaps you can ask your husband to shut it the next time you see him. And this one is from Cedric Tullett of Oldfield Park. Dear Uncle Jack, this morning I was cleaning up my house, and I came across a box of military medals. I'm pretty sure they're my military medals because my father was never in the war because he had a bit of a limp. So they must be mine. I'd like to know what they're for. All I remember during the war was retreating and then the surrender. And then we all took off our uniforms, and that's all I can remember. So how could I have even won one medal? Yes, well, thank you for the very poignant questions, Mr. Tullett. And I, for one, salute you during your service during the war, sir. And I think I can assure you that the next war will be a string of English victories like you've never even imagined. After all, as we all know, the English always win in the end. Good. And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. I do hope that you found these letters not only interesting, but useful to you in your own life. Do keep those letters coming. In fact, with Victory Day coming up, please let me know how you're planning to spend the holiday, and the reader with the most amazing plans shall win a prize. Tune in again tomorrow for more cheery answers to your questions about your life in Wellington Wells. This is Jack Worthing saying, cheerio, and on with your day. I'll see you soon.
Right, so we're going to unlock another one. Should I unlock another one? Yeah, go for it. It says key to unlock, but put on a trailer just for a wee break from Jack for a minute. Oh, sorry, Jack. I wasn't.
Wakey Wakey, everyone.
Okay.
It's another fabulous day
It's
in Wellington
broken.
Wells. It's your dear friend, Uncle Jack, with a few brief tips that'll help you get along. The most important one, of course, is don't forget to take your joy.
I think I have
Drink
broken.
plenty of water, too. Good thing there's joy in the...
Here we go. Fix it. Gonna have to hear all that again, though. It's because I was bad-mouthing
Wakey Wakey, everyone.
that guy there.
It's another fabulous day in Wellington Wells. It's your dear friend, Uncle Jack.
I might play this
Brief
game now.
tips that'll help you get along. The most important one, of course, is don't forget to take your joy. Drink plenty of water, too. Good thing there's joy in the water, eh? And eat plenty of nutritious food. May I be the first to recommend our local delicacy, V-meat. Of course, be very careful to stay away from downers.
I just want them to stop screaming.
Fortunately, most of these sad lunatics live in the Garden District, and no decent person goes there. It's full of dangerous maniacs who won't take their joy.
Good night!
Obey all official signs. They're for your safety and protection. Make friends with your fellow citizens. Talk to them.
What the fuck are you doing here?
Visit them. Wellies love a friendly guest. We Wellies do love our games. It's important to stay young at heart. So use our playgrounds. After all, if we don't, who on earth will? Obey police officers. They're there to protect you. Remember, they're the only ones who are supposed to be out at night. Wellington Wells is always a delightful place. If you just do like everyone else is doing and take your joy, you'll have a splendid time. And if you don't...
One less mouth to feed, eh? I think that's the best one of all. Very good.
What have we got? Nighty Night 7. Was the last one 6 that we listened to? Ah well, we'll listen to all of them eventually. We'll get there.
Well, it's getting late, isn't it?
It is.
And it's time for all good wellies to cuddle up in bed. You don't want to be out after dark, do you? Foggy Jack might come for you. And then where would you be? In several places at once, wouldn't you? Would you like me to read you a bedtime story? Of course you would. Well, curl up in front of the telly, and Uncle Jack will tell you a story. Tonight's story is called Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time there lived a poor woodcutter and his wife and his 2 aged parents. The old man's name was Hansel, and the old woman's name was Gretel. There was little to eat, and when a hard winter came across the land, so hard that the wolves prowled the crossroads at night, the woodcutter could no longer feed his parents. He lay in bed with his wife, and they discussed what to do. The woodcutter's wife said, "Here's what we do, liebling. We will lead them deep into the woods, yeah? To gather the firewood, okay? And then we will trick them, and we will leave them there. Und natürlich, there will be enough bread for the both of us." For you see, they were not her parents, and they didn't particularly like her. Now at first the woodcutter said, "Well, I don't know, maybe I should leave you in the woods instead." But his wife said, "Oh, it's a funny man. No, they're old and they do not work anymore, okay?" And the woodcutter had to admit, she had a point. What the woodcutter did not know was that his parents had overheard the entire conversation, for they had very good hearing for old people, and they'd not been sleeping well. And Hansel said to Gretel, "Our son's going to leave us in the woods to starve. What shall we do?" Gretel said, "Let us gather bright pebbles by the light of the moon." The next day at dawn, the woodcutter and his wife led his parents deep, deep into the woods, deeper than they'd ever gone to cut firewood. The wife made a fire for them and said, "Rest by the fire while we chop some wood." And soon enough, they heard the sound of chopping. Hansel and Gretel thought perhaps their son had not left them after all. But late in the evening, the wind died down, and so did the sound of chopping. For it was only a branch that the woodcutter had rigged to bang against a tree in the wind. But Hansel and Gretel, they dropped bright pebbles all along the path into the woods, and they were able to follow them all the way back to the woodcutter's house, which had been their house when they raised him. When they came to the door, the woodcutter's wife, well, she was alarmed to see them. "You wicked people! Your son has been crying ever since you left him. He thought you did not want to come back." That night the woodcutter told his wife, "It's a gift from God. We don't have to leave my parents in the woods after all." "Oh, you fool! Idiot!" said the woodcutter's wife. "Do we have more bread heute Abend than we did yesterday?" And the woodcutter had already agreed once to abandon his parents, so he didn't really have a leg to stand on, did he? So he agreed to lead them out into the woods the next morning. That night, Hansel went to gather bright pebbles by the light of the moon, but the woodcutter's wife had locked the door, so he couldn't gather any. In the morning, Hansel begged his son for a crust of bread to eat on the forest path, but he did not eat it. Instead, as his son led him deep into the woods, he broke off small bits and dropped them on the forest path. All along the way, Hansel spoke to his son of happier days, when they both had been young and the land was fat. He was hoping to soften his son's heart, and the woodcutter, well, he smiled and nodded. For when you're going to kill a man, it costs nothing to be polite. And again, the woodcutter's wife made them a fire and made them lie down and rest by it, while the woodcutter and his wife went into the forest to chop wood. But they heard no branch banging against a tree, for the time was past for pretenses. Hansel said to Gretel, "Let us find our way home before night falls, because it's very cold and they're not coming back for us." And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. We'll have to continue this delightful story tomorrow night. Did Hansel and Gretel find their way home? And did the woodcutter welcome them back? And did they all live happily ever after? I hope not. What kind of fairy tale do you think this is? Tune in tomorrow to find out.
It's mad. They did do a lot of these, eh? Gonna have to look up what they were actually for when they were first out. Because I can't imagine they did them just for this. Maybe they did. Oh, we went for News Hour 2, but let's go for it. This guy does all the telling.
Every now and then, you might see someone who seems to be sleeping on the path or even in the middle of the road. Now, we all know that the middle of the road is not the most comfortable place to sleep, and it's rather inconvenient for the rest of us. We might trip on them. So, what's going on? Well, the first thing to find out is if they're sleeping or if they're just lying there. Are their eyes open? If you shake them, do they make sounds? Let's suppose their eyes are open and they seem responsive to you. There's a possibility that they're feeling too sad to get up. In that case, you're dealing with a downer. And we all know what to do with a downer, don't we? Offer them joy. If they won't take it, round up a few people near you and make sure they take it. If their eyes are closed but they seem responsive, then they may be sick. It's probably best to prop them up in a building and let a doctor know. You don't want to spend too much time with a sick person. But you might get sick too. And doctors know just what to do with sick people, after all. And you don't. But what to do if they don't respond? It's possible that they've passed on. Now, there's no need for you to deal with a dead body on the street. The authorities are fully capable of dealing with any deceased citizens and will properly dispose of their remains. And what you should definitely not do is stand there gawping. You don't want to draw a crowd, and it's not healthy to stare at a dead body. It might bring you down. So just leave the body there and move on. And if you see a lot of people walking past someone in the middle of the street, well, you can safely trust that they've already realized there's nothing further they can do for that person. Just pretend that the person in the street is not there. Sooner or later they won't be. Take it from me, Uncle Jack. What's done is done, and it's best if we all move on. You will be glad you did.
News Hour 8. Come on. No. News Hour 8. News Hour is good.
Everyone is talking about the shocking thing that happened yesterday. You know what I'm talking about. I have it on good authority that it was not at all what you might have thought it was. And in any event, the responsible parties are taking steps to make sure it never happens again. In the meantime, keep calm and carry on. And don't forget to take your joy. And the weather report is rain, rain, go away, come back again some other day. Remember, gentlemen, while rainwater goes down smooth in a whiskey, it does not contain joy. So, if you like to collect rainwater for tempering your constitutional, please remember to adjust your dose accordingly. And the weather is delightfully sunny, inside and out. Who doesn't love an English spring? I expect to see nothing but smiles out there. In fact, anything but smiles out there is strictly forbidden. Also, extremely unlikely, unless someone's happy face falls off. Can you imagine that? Better make sure it's not you. In case you might have heard a loud explosion coming from the general direction of the Victory Memorial Camp, don't worry, it wasn't someone blowing themselves up on the minefield. It was merely the members of the Home Army testing their ordnance. Mortar shells apparently don't last forever, and there's nothing more frustrating than dropping a shell on the enemy and it turning out to be a dud. So they must regularly test their supplies. That's all it was. No fatalities at all, and no worries. You may have noticed one of our favourite shops boarded up. There's no need to worry. We're told the proprietor, you know who I'm talking about, is renovating, and he doesn't want anyone to see it until it's done. At least that's what he says. I suspect he may simply have gone on holidays and doesn't want us to know. So if you notice a certain person comes back to work looking remarkably well rested, we'll know the truth, won't we? Our local football team has done it again. A thrilling victory over some tough rivals. You've never seen such exciting footwork. And they really use their heads. Of course, it's nothing less than we expect from our finest. If you see them, do buy them a pint for me. I'm sorry to say tomorrow's cricket match has been postponed due to uncertain weather. We can't very well play cricket in a typhoon, so we'll let you know the revised schedule as soon as we receive the details. In Hamelin, our favourite butcher shop has a very special today. Is it pork chops? Is it pepperoni? Is it filet mignon? Is it roast chicken? Or is it just several cases of fresh, delicious V-meat? Now that I've got your mouth watering, well, I'm not going to tell you what it is. You'll have to go visit yourself. And do give your favourite butcher my regards. No one slices like he does. There has been some confusion about the pass required to enter the city centre of Wellington Wells. To obtain your pass, you simply need to present yourself in person with a recent photograph and a typed explanation of your purpose at the Department of Public Order. Simple, isn't it? That's all you have to do. The department is located at 5 Wapping Road, near the corner of Bath Street, in the centre of Wellington Wells. I hope that clarifies everything. There has been some excitement at the Victory Memorial Camp. An unauthorized person was intercepted attempting to plant tulips around the chain link fence. Fortunately, she set off all the alarms and was quickly apprehended. Imagine how alarming it would have been if she'd not been caught. Kaboom! Yes. Now, the leadership of the Home Army hastens to remind the public that the Victory Camp and the surrounding relics of our heroic resistance have been preserved in its immediate post-victory state. That means unmarked minefields, and unexploded ordnance every which way. She could have got herself blown up. So don't be a tourist fatality. No one except members of the Home Army in good standing has any purpose in the memorial camp. And if you want to plant flowers, how about planting them in town where we can all see them? Some viewers have asked me, how can I find out more about the resistance and the victory? Now, I always tell them, why on earth would you want to know more about the war years, their ancient history, and our lives are so much better now? But, due to popular demand, we now have a book with all the answers. It's called The Story of Our Victory. And it's written by me, Jack Worthing. It's a lovely little book with cheery illustrations and quotations from all your favorite wartime heroes. And it tells you absolutely everything you should ever want to know about the war and our glorious victory. If it's not in the book, you don't need to know it. Some viewers have asked, how do I join the brave soldiers of the Home Army? Now, I've asked the Home Army leadership to respond, and they would like you to know that the Home Army has a full complement of highly trained warriors ready to repel any future invasion by our enemies, or even our friends. So there's no need to join anything. You can just be a patriot by smiling at everyone you meet. Now, go about your day and enjoy our lovely English weather, whatever it is.
That's him away. I go for I Hear You 3. Wait. Aye, that was the right one, wasn't it? Got another key.
And now it's time for I Hear You, the part of our show where Jack Worthing, that's me, answers your letters and questions about our life in Wellington Wells. And my first letter is from Mrs. Emily Cluley of Falkland Road. Dear Uncle Jack, I adore your show and thank you for answering my question. I have a big Victorian bed that my husband inherited from his grandmum, but most nights he crawls off to sleep in the small bedroom in the small bed we have there. He promises that it's not because I snore, but he won't say why he does, and I'm not sure he even knows. He seems a little sad. What should I do? Dear Emily, may I call you Emily? Your letter is quite touching. You know the answer, don't you? Yes. You see, if he seems a little sad, there's only one possible answer. He's off his joy of it, isn't he? Yes. You must encourage him to take his pills, even if he seems a bit defiant. Take him to a doctor. There's no sense in sleeping in a rickety little bed in a small room when you can sleep in a proper English bed in a proper master bedroom. And quite frankly, even if you did snore, if he's taking his joy, then he should sleep soundly regardless. Just make sure he falls asleep before you do, and you both should be fine. Thank you for writing, Emily, and do keep me posted about your progress. Well, that's a bit of a dreary letter, wasn't it? I'm sorry. Forget I read it, will you? Let's take a look at another one, shall we? This one is from Mrs. Purdy Robbins Handley of Oldfield Park. Dear Uncle Jack, my husband won't take off his happy face at home. He won't even take it off in bed. He's that healthy. He says he has nightmares if he takes it off, but it's a little creepy in it. She actually wrote in it. And she says, I mean, he could be anyone. Well, Purdy, are you sure he actually is your husband? Well, you can't be too careful these days, can you? No, but seriously, Purdy, we do what it takes to stay happy, don't we? And the happy mask is scientifically sculpted to keep you happy. You see, when your facial muscles are shaped in a smile, well, you can't help feeling happy. Now, normally, I would suggest you take more joy. But some people do have a slight intolerance to joy. Now, if your husband is one of these people, he may just be doing what he needs in order to keep himself up. Certainly, if he's having nightmares without his happy face, well, why on earth should he sleep without it, when he can sleep with it and not have nightmares? So, come on, have a little conjugal consideration and appreciate his good qualities. Assuming he is, after all, not an imposter. Thank you for writing, Purdy.
Jack's freaking me out a wee bit.
This one is from Poppy Findlay of Twerton Manor. Dear Uncle Jack, I have a lovely row of tulips in front of my house. I should say, I used to have, because they're half gone, and I found a great big pile of tulip tops in the rubbish. Has some animal come and eaten half my tulip bulbs? Is it a badger? How can I catch it and eat it? Well, Poppy, I'm sorry to tell you it's extremely unlikely that you have a badger, given that the tulip tops were placed in the rubbish. I think that you might actually be dealing with a hungry human. Did you know that you can eat tulip bulbs? Yes. Actually, there's a fabulous and hilarious story from the Dutch tulip mania of the 1600s. See, there was this sailor who visited a friend of his, and he saw an onion on his table, and he ate it. Now, it turned out to be a rare tulip bulb worth hundreds of guineas. And he ate it. Can you imagine the kerfuffle that he heard? Well, I hope he enjoyed it. Actually, there's no word what happened to the sailor, but I bet he took the next ship out. Hope he wasn't hanged. Yes. Anyway, do you by chance happen to live near the garden district? Sometimes the unfortunate souls who live near there come into the village, and, well, it wouldn't surprise me at all if it was them that ate your tulip bulbs. But I doubt there's anything you could do about it, except watch your remaining flowers and call the police if you see anyone near them. In the meantime, if you could eat tulip bulbs, you could probably eat the tops too with a bit of cooking. Well, it couldn't hurt anyway, eh? Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again next time, when I hope you'll join us and we'll answer all your questions about life in Wellington Wells. I'll see you soon.
Next normal stream I do, I should come out dressed like that. We'll just go for more on this side. That's what we got. We've got the waist. What is the waist? Just going to recalibrate because I'm getting further and further away from the screen somehow. There's a song. A nice chilled out one in between. Some colours. They couldn't have done all this just for this. This is almost like a bonus disc, like a DVD or something, isn't it? That is nice though. Some ambient music. Better not play too much of that though. It's already going to be flagged for different songs, isn't it? Where's that one? Intermission. We'll hold intermission. Nice, that one though. So the gold ones are like soundtracks maybe. No, this one's a kind of soundtrack, isn't it? The last two have been quite odd. A wee break from Uncle Jack for a while. Alright, news hour 6. Do them in reverse order. There he is again. Let me get a drink of juice, yet. Maybe.
Welcome to News Hour. All sorts of amazing things have been going on in Wellington Wells. I'm sure you must be as excited as I am to know about them. You may be surprised to know that a few silly people are still throwing out perfectly good meat scraps. Now, it's never a good idea to throw out food, especially meat. If you have a scrap of meat you don't want to eat or that's gone slightly off, then run it right down to your neighborhood butcher. They'll know what to do with it, and they'll be happy to buy it from you or exchange it for sausage or even V-meat, yes. You'll be doing yourself a favor and you'll be doing your patriotic Wellington Wells duty as well. And remember, my fellow Wellsians, V-meat may smell off on rainy days, but it's always nutritious, and it never actually goes bad. I'm happy to report that many homeowners are taking steps to ensure the security of their castles. I mean homes. For an Englishman's home is his castle, isn't it? And don't let anyone tell you any different. Yes, even more homes are being outfitted with the latest state-of-the-art home alarm systems. This is due to the recent outbreak of being sensible. You can never be too careful these days, eh? Anyway, it's good to know that people are safe in their own homes. And if you notice any suspicious characters skulking around your neighborhood, be sure to lock all your doors and bar all your windows, and inform a local policeman if you can find one. I'm happy to report the graduation of a new class of policemen. And don't be surprised if you look up and see a new face under those blue custodian helmets. There'll be quite a bit more of them around, so honest, sensible citizens should feel even safer on our streets. Some of you may be wondering why so many shops are closed. There's nothing to worry about at all. Many shopkeepers are taking advantage of the lull in purchases to make much-needed repairs to their establishments. Or they're simply going on holiday. Don't be afraid to use this opportunity to try a new place. Many shopkeepers are still open for business and would love to see your smiling face. Yes, and variety is the spice of life. You may be wondering about the yellow powder currently coating our streets. Is it a particularly imaginative attempt at making our city even more colourful? Shall we expect blue powder and red powder in the next few days? Will there be rainbow-coloured dust devils? Well, no one can make predictions, especially about the future. But I can assure you there's nothing to worry about. The dust clouds have now dispersed. There should be no more powder falls. I will suggest, though, that for the next few days, if you eat any wild plants, you ought to watch them very carefully. If your water's working, or at least sponge them off until you can see no more powder on their leaves. It's also a very good idea to stick to piped water and any sealed supplies that you may have, at least until the sulfur powder has washed away into the sewer system. Again, nothing to be concerned about, but do be careful to take a few precautions and keep tuned to good old Jack Worthing, that's me, for further updates. Ah, yes. I'm happy to inform you that the shipment of tainted vegetables has been completely removed from our streets. If you hadn't heard, there had been an unfortunate outbreak of botulism in the vegetables at your local greengrocer. There's no need to worry. You won't find a single vegetable for sale in Wellington Wells. Yes, what about my stew, you may ask? Well, not to worry. The authorities are looking into providing vegetables from new sources, and I should have more about that for you in the upcoming days. And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again tomorrow for more timely, informative, and cheery news of Wellington Wells. This is Jack Worthing saying goodbye and on with your day. See you soon.
So that was News Hour 6. Going for News Hour 5. It's back again. It's scary if you stare at it.
Sleeping? Think it might be nice to take a walk down your street and take in the moon and stars?
Maybe.
Well, get yourself into your kitchen and warm up a cup of milk and go take a look at the moon and the stars out of your window. It's not a bright idea to go out at night. Who knows what could happen in the fog? You could trip and hurt yourself. You could fall in a hole. Foggy Jack might get you.
Who's Foggy Jack? Is it
Of
you?
course. Foggy Jack doesn't really exist. But you can never be too careful.
Yeah.
Take it from me, Jack Wood. Stay inside until dawn and greet the bright new day. You'll be glad you did.
That one was really short. It was good though. 4. Come on. Got another key. News hour are good ones like.
Sometimes people get confused about the garden district. But we English love our gardens, don't we? And from the painted road we call home, it can look like the unrenovated areas of Wellington Wells are abloom with wildflowers. But you can never be too careful. The garden district is abloom with mortal dangers as well. Hungry wastrels and depressing downers prowl the land. And the municipal police simply do not have the resources to patrol places that no one lives. So, be sensible and stay on the painted road. It's there for your enjoyment and protection. Well, the painted road is all you know and all you need to know.
It was a really short one. Right, left again then, I suppose. Is this just going to be like music? Yeah. So it's quite cool. A wee VR player to listen to some tunes with a wee bit of visuals. There's trees blowing about a wee bit. Colour changing. That song is pretty good though. Very cool. Well, 4. We ready for it? Here he is again. It's Dr. Jack Worthington this time.
Welcome
Dr. Uncle
to
Jack.
today's edition of Well, the show where we talk about how to be your physical best. Now, some of you dear listeners have been writing in about some sort of plague that's supposed to be going around Wellington Wells. Now, first of all, don't be ridiculous. If there were plague, wouldn't you expect to notice dead bodies in the streets strewn here and there? But you don't notice them, do you? But I want to address some of the wilder claims people have been writing to me about. For example, this chap, Constable Bill Blake of Trim Street, St. George's Home. And he writes that some of the wastrels have become quite incoherent and belligerent. And, well, he chalks it up to plague. Well, you don't have to blame it on plague, do you? I mean, I'd be belligerent if I were off my joy. Who knows? I might go around murdering people in the middle of the night and leave a trail of corpses missing their kidneys. But I do take my joy, don't I? If those poor wastrels would just go back on their joy, you wouldn't hear another thing about plague. But that's not the half of it. Mrs. E.H. Undershaft of the Tyning Maiden Home claims to have heard plague-afflicted wastrels speaking in Old English. What an imagination you have, Mrs. Undershaft. Now, I remember when you used to read as Beowulf and did all the voices. Mrs. Undershaft, they're probably speaking English and you've just gone slightly deaf. So, there's nothing to worry about. Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time.
Oh.
Tune in again next week when we talk about scurvy. If your teeth are falling out, not to worry. You're in fine British seafaring tradition. This is Dr. Jack Worthing, and remember to stay well, well, well.
Tastes Amazing 3. Have we seen any Tastes Amazing? I don't know if we've had any of them yet. Oh no, we've had one. That Tastes Amazing. What is it?
Ah, hello. Welcome to today's edition of That Tastes Amazing. What is it? This is the show where we help you expand your nutritional horizons. You can eat a lot more things than you've ever dreamt of. Did you know you can eat lichens? Now I'm going to show you 3 kinds of lichens that you can fill up on. This is Palmontrapa perlatum, your basic grey-green lichen. For some reason, it's also called black stone flower. In India, it's called kalpasi. It grows on rocks and even stone houses all over Hamlin. Imagine being able to scrape a salad off the side of your own house. Wouldn't that make your life so much easier and cleverer? This is called reindeer lichen, or Cladonia rangiferida. As you might have guessed, it's very important food for reindeer, yes. However, we don't have any reindeer here in England, and we haven't had any since the last Ice Age, so I think they won't mind if you eat it. The best way to eat it is by drying it and then crushing it, then soaking it in hot water until it becomes soft. You can fry it up if you've got any grease or lard, in which case, lucky you. It's a bit acid, so it may give you a bit of a tummy ache, but that's miles better than starving, isn't it? And you can, I beg your pardon, if you can manage to use it as a green in a victory meat sandwich, then, well, I think you'll be as right as rain. Our friend Cladonia has all sorts of medicinal values for keeping you regular to a mild antiseptic quality. You can even use it to flavour your aquavit if you've got any left. Here's another lichen that people like to call moss. It's called Iceland moss, and guess where it's really common? Yes, Hamlin, that's where. What did you think I was going to say? Now, I've had some of this, and let me tell you, it is scrumptious. Well, all right. Perhaps it's not quite scrumptious, but it's quite filling if you're hungry. In fact, I quite like it. Oh dear, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time, and I hope you've enjoyed this edition of That Tastes Amazing. What is it? Tune in next time when we talk about rat meat. Everyone knows about the legs, but did you know you can turn the eyes, feet and tail into a perfectly good soup stock? Seriously, don't be afraid to experiment with new foods. It's part of the adventure of living in these times. It's Jack Worthing telling you to keep that larder full and save the canned foods for a rainy day. I'll see you soon.
Nice. What we got? News Hour 7. He's back. Scary Jack.
Every now and then, you hear someone talk about downers. What's a downer? Well, a downer is someone who simply isn't taking their joy. This person endangers the mental health of everyone around by bringing them down. He or she may try to draw you into a conversation about long-ago events, or he may try to convince you that his life is not happy, or even that your life is not happy. Don't be fooled. The moment you realize you're talking to a downer, you should stop listening to him right away. He needs help, and listening to him won't help anyone. Try this easy test. Are you having a conversation that's bringing you down? Then one of the people who's talking to you is a downer. Or if none of them is a downer, and they all seem as happy as can be, well, then you may be the downer. In that case, don't worry. Immediately excuse yourself and take your joy right away, and you'll be right as rain in no time. You can never be too careful.
Oh, that one was really short. I hear you. 6.
And now it's time to read some of the letters our audience writes to Jack Worthing. That's me, Uncle Jack. First we have Mrs. H.K. Chesterfield of Purlewins Drive, Maidenhome.
She writes, "Sometimes, when I look out at my window at the garden district at night, I think I see fires. I assumed it was the bobbies keeping themselves warm, but once I saw a whole lot of fires out on Wednesday's Hill. They're not having some sort of police convention, are they? And I swear I could hear chanting." Well, Mrs. Chesterfield, I shouldn't worry. Sometimes, you know, the moon reflects in the windows, and then if there's a wind knocking against that window, it can create a sort of flicker effect. Now, my guess is that your curtain rod has fallen down. If you just fix up your curtain rod and draw the blinds close at night, you will find you're no longer worrying about fires in the garden district. Instead, you'll think about how cozy we all are in our houses at night. And now, yes, let's go to this chap. Mr. Nigel Higginbotham of Bellis Road, St. George. And he writes, "How long can this go on?" Well, that's odd, isn't it? That's all he wrote. There's another side. It continues, "How long has this been going on?" Well, that's a rather strange one, isn't it? Do you know, I think this must be some sort of riddle. Yes, and if it is a riddle and one of you clever clogs have a clever answer, please drop a note to Jack Worthing, that's me, at the broadcast tower, and, well, I'll be sure to let everyone else know it. I almost forgot. It's time for the secret word of the day. I'm going to say a word, and ladies, if you can get a bobby to say that word, you're allowed to kiss them. But you're not allowed to say that word to them, because that would be cheating. All right? The secret word of the day is epistemology. Now, it'll help you to know that epistemology is the study of how we know things. All right? Well, good luck, ladies. And remember, no telling them the word first. I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in later for more Uncle Jack.
Right. What have we got? Oh, we've done it then. Not done any of these though. So we've got tune time. Yep. Nice. That was good. Wait. That one. Famous Britons. Not had any famous Britons. So many of these.
And now it's time for Famous Britons, the show in which Jack Worthing, that's me, interviews some of our most celebrated countrymen. Today, we have in our studio His Majesty King George III. Your Majesty, how are you feeling today?
Mad, really?
Well, is it us who's mad, or is it the entire world?
Oh, no, Jack, no, it's me. Absolutely me. Do you know, in fact, it's got my attention. Some of my subjects affectionately refer to me as Mad King George.
Still, you accomplished quite a bit in your reign, didn't you?
Yes, I have, Jack, and I'm glad to talk about some of the more serious things of my reign.
I grew smashing carrots.
Really did. In fact, I was known as Farmer George. But those damned rabbits, Jack, always eating my carrots.
You beat the French?
And you know, in those days, they weren't even always orange. No. They were mostly sort of red and white and sometimes beige.
The French?
No, Jack. The carrots! Still trying to keep up, man. But the French, yes, we did beat them twice. Sadly. And, well, you're famous for giving the Americans their liberty, eh? Oh, Jack. Those pesky Americans. Any idiot can grow vegetables in the New World. You just chop down a tree and there's your farm. I mean, try doing that in the plot of land that's been found for 2,000 years. Ah, good luck to you, man. But Jack, the damned rabbits were always eating my lettuce. Well, you do sound a little upset. But I'm mad. I'm absolutely mad. Mad King George, barking. Have you tried joy? Joy? What's that? Well, it's this marvelous pill that makes you forget everything and think of all the wonderful things in life. Well, I wish I'd had some of that. I might not have been quite so mad. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. His Majesty King George III. If only he'd had joy, he might not have gone mad at all. Ask your doctor if joy is right for you. Of course it's right for you. Next week, on Famous Britons, I'll be interviewing King Arthur. Do you know he's planning a comeback? Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in later for more Uncle Jack.
Oh well, there's plenty more. There's plenty to eat. Jeez. Well, too.
And welcome to today's edition of Well, the show where we talk about how to be your physical best. Now, we all know what to do about the blahs, don't we? If you're feeling a little bit blue, here's an easy fix. Pop another joy. You can't overdose on happiness. Being in Wellington Wells means never having to feel sorry for yourself. But there are some ailments of the body, and though you might feel perfectly happy, you might be having trouble keeping your food down. And you might be having trouble keeping your food in. There's a surprisingly nasty little disease called cholera. Yes, its main symptoms are vomiting and diarrhea. You wind up doing so much of both that, in the end, you've nothing to throw up except clear liquid and nothing to come out the other end except a sort of rice water. Now, I'm afraid I'm going to show you a rather ghastly photograph, but it's all in a good cause. I hope that's not what you're seeing in the pot. But if you are, then someone in your house may have cholera. Now, cholera is a bit dangerous, but it has a very simple treatment. In the past, you see, we all used to take all sorts of pills for it. But it turns out that the most important thing is to drink lots and lots of water. Yes, you can lose 10 to 20 quarts of fluid a day from cholera. In fact, people with cholera can wind up with wrinkled hands like they spent too long in the tub. The cure for that is easy. Drink like a fish. Don't be afraid to drink 10 to 20 quarts of water per day. Ideally, of course, you'll mix half a teaspoon of salt, 6 teaspoons of sugar, and a little bit of mashed banana in each quart of water. But if you don't have sugar or banana, and who does, the salt's important too. And here's where you may need a bit of help. If you're drinking that much water, you don't need to take any additional joy pills, and you may find yourself forgetting a thing or two. Now, if there are other people in your household, please make sure that they know not to let you take any more joy pills for a while, and to make sure you keep drinking lots and lots of water. Now, how do you ensure that you don't get cholera? Well, be sure to only drink pure water. Now, there's absolutely no truth to any rumour that the water in Wellington Wells is contaminated by bacteria. However, you can never be too careful. So, if you can, if anyone on your street is having a lot of tummy trouble, you should boil all water, especially if it's been exceptionally rainy. I mean, not your ordinary, wonderful English rain, but severe thunderstorms. If your gas isn't working, just filtering your water through a cloth is quite helpful in reducing the bacteria in the water. Why don't you just go down the pub? The beer is definitely safe to drink. And if you're caring for someone with a lot of tummy trouble, be sure to wash your hands lots. And if you can, get some bleach. Be sure to bleach the bed sheets. It's a very good idea. And if you can't, well, then hanging them out on a sunny day until they're quite warm and dry will work wonders, because nothing disinfects like sunlight. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask a doctor. You know doctors, they're always looking out for you. And remember, no matter what you do, make sure you're taking enough joy. There's no excuse anymore for feeling bad. You don't have to. Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again next time when we'll hear the good news about leprosy. It's slow, and it's not at all true that your limbs just fall off. So don't worry if you're losing sensation in your extremities. You'll probably die of something else first. This is Dr. Jack Worthing saying, stay well, 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 and don't forget to take your drug. Goodbye.
$19.85. So would this be the beginning of the Pied Piper, maybe?
Well, it's getting late, isn't it? It's time for all good citizens to be getting ready to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like me to read you a bedtime story?
Yeah.
Of course you would. Well, sit down next to the fire, if you've got one, and wrap a blanket around yourselves, and I'll tell you something that happened. Tonight's story is called The Pied Piper. And some people say it actually took place. And some people say it actually took place in our very own Hamelin. But who knows? The past is deep and dark and filled with mists and strange things that move in the night. It's best not to go into it. Strange things happen in fairy tales, but even stranger and nastier things happen in the past. Thank goodness we're not living then, and our days are bright and filled with joy. Once upon a time, there was a town called Hamelin. It wasn't the name of the town. That's just what it was called. It was a happy town, full of rich merchants and hard-working smiths and beautiful girls and jovial lads. But awful things can happen to good people. And little did the people of Hamelin know, but dark times were coming. There was a hard winter when wolves came down from the hills and attacked the sheep. And the wolves brought crows which would wait for the sight of rotting meat and then descend in swarms. And some said, though no one ever saw it, that the crows did not always wait for death. And some said it was not only wolves who were murdering animals out in the fields. The crows knew, but they only said caw. But if the winter was hard, the summer was harder still. For the summer brought rats. They came onto the beaches from a ship that had sailed from France. At first there were just a few, but soon there were hundreds of rats, then thousands of them. They swarmed into the town, and they said to themselves in their rat speech, "Here is a rich town. Let us eat everything we can." So they ate the grain, they chewed their way into cupboards to eat the cheese, they even ate chickens when they could quarter them. Nothing was safe. The villagers, well, they were at their wits' end. If you can kill one rat, you can set traps for 12 rats. But who can kill 1,000 rats? As long as there are 2 rats, in weeks there'll be dozens. And in weeks after that, there will be thousands again. The villagers were in despair. But one day, a tall man came to town. He was a piper. He played a pipe. So they called him the Pied Piper, for he wore a coat of many colours. He was not very good at playing the pipes, but when the villagers told him to stop playing, he told them, "Although I'm not very good at playing to entertain people, I know what to play to rats." Well, who would play music for rats, you ask? Well, the piper never explained, but he offered the town to pipe their rats away. He said, "It'll cost you a great deal of money. But I promise you, when it's all over, there will be no more rats." He even promised that if he left a single rat, they need pay him nothing. Now, the villagers of Hamelin were not poor, but they liked their money. Still, they thought they would never have to pay the piper. I mean, after all, who could possibly rid the town of every last rat? So they agreed to the piper's terms. And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again tomorrow evening, and I'll tell you the rest of the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Will the town get rid of their rats? And how will they pay the piper? It's a lovely story, and I'm sure you'll enjoy how it ends. For now, this is Jack Worthing saying good night all. See you tomorrow.
I feel like the ending on that story in this was different for the one I remember. I thought he like took all the children out of the town, but he took everybody out of the town when he was telling it. Sorry, I'm looking for Taste Amazing 1. I just flung it on the floor. There, it's back. Yes, Taste Amazing 1. And we've unlocked another one of these.
Ah, hello. Welcome to today's edition of That Tastes Amazing. What is it? This is the show where we help you expand your nutritional horizons. You know, you can eat a lot more things than you've ever dreamt of. And I'm here to show you what. Now, today we're going to talk about the wonderful world of flour extenders and bread substitutes. Of course, a lot of you are already using flour substitutes, and bread doesn't have to be made of wheat flour. Ground barley, for example, is scrumptious. And why wouldn't it be? Barley is the key ingredient in beer. Ha ha ha! Now I've got your attention, haven't I? Making beer is like making tea. You pour hot water over partly sprouted barley grains. But after all this beer tea, it's called wort, by the way, after it's been poured off to ferment into beer, well, there are bags and bags full of used barley. Now, can you believe that people used to feed spent mash to cows? What a waste! I mean, of course, it's not as yummy as it used to be, but there are still a few calories left. All you need to do is grind the used barley into flour in the kind of hand mill that you used to use for coffee beans. Now, if you've already sold your hand mill, barley can be pounded into flour with an ordinary mortar. Now, of course, that'll use and require a lot more elbow grease, like this. That'll really build up those muscles. Now, once you've got your barley flour, you just jolly well mix it in with wheat flour. If you can get it, that is. See, flour provides the sticky gluten that holds bread together. So the more flour you can mix in, the better. Ideally, proportions are 1 cup of barley to 1 cup of flour. However, if you really like the taste of barley, you can always mix in 2 cups to 1 cup of flour. It'll have a more crumbly, more cake-like consistency. I love a crumble cake. Don't you? You could always eat it in a bowl with a spoon. After all, it's going to look the same when it comes out the other end, isn't it? Well, so much for used barley. Now, if you can still get your hands on a potato flour is another excellent extender for your flour supplies. Very important. You must slice your potatoes as thin as possible, as if you're making crisps. In fact, if you've got oil to fry them in, you can just skip making flour and go right to making crisps. Machine oil will do just as well as fat or grease. But if bread is what you're about, then slice your potato slices until you can break them with your hand. If your oven works, you can dry them in the oven, but a fireplace is just as good. Just make sure you dry them and don't actually cook them. The key is that you don't want a lot of water in your potato flour. Just move them a little bit away from the fire. Now, I'm not actually going to slice this potato because the drying process takes several hours and, well, we haven't got all day, have we? Oh, yes. I've got plans for you later, Mr. Potato. You've got a date with a hot pot full of boiling oil. Some people seem to think that sawdust is a good flour extender. Well, they're certainly using their English imaginations, aren't they? We've always been good at coming up with clever solutions to just about any problem, eh? Certainly easy to get sawdust. You just saw some wood. And yes, sawdust will indeed fill you up. It's very slow to digest, which makes for a full tummy all day long. Just make sure it's powdery and not too rough, or it'll irritate your stomach. Do bear in mind that sawdust has surprisingly little nutritional value. Man cannot live on sawdust alone. If you're looking for a better use of sawdust, it's handy to use as a mulch in your garden. It really helps aerate your soil. And if you have a typical handling clay under your house, a bit of sawdust is just the thing to mix in to lighten up that soil. And the same goes for wheat chaff. Fills the tummy, but after a while you'll need to eat something nutritious. Best to dig it into your victory garden where it'll do your vegetables a world of good. Listen to me, this isn't my gardening show, is it? Let's get back to flower extenders. Remember, if you're harvesting wild seeds, they won't contain any joy. And neither will potatoes, unless you've watered them yourself from water out of the tap. And especially sawdust and chaff. They don't have any joy at all. So remember to adjust your dose accordingly. And bear in mind, if sawdust or chaff is all you have, just up your dose of joy a little. They'll fill your tummy, and you won't be at all upset that you're a little bit hungry. You might even forget that you haven't eaten at all. But just get back to real food as soon as you can, and you'll be right as rain. Oh, I'm afraid I've come to the end of our time. This is Uncle Jack wishing you an amazing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Tune in next time, when we explore what to do with meat that's gone a bit off.
I think we've seen that one actually, didn't we?
See you soon.
Oh, got another padlock here. How many sides are there on this thing? So get some music for the military camp. It's an odd thing. I think this was a free one as well. It's got a lot of stuff on it. A ton of stuff. Still got like this side. Right, military camp. I've had enough of that. Let's go. Go for some old customs. Old Customs 3. Funny Old Customs 3. Good to see you,
And
JX.
now it's time for Funny English Customs, the show in which Jack Worthing, that's me, illuminates our jolly island's ancient customs. Now, since the 1st of May is coming soon, let's talk about the ancient tradition of the maypole. Some people claim the maypole was a naughty Roman ritual about, well, we're all grown-ups here, aren't we? But we Brits, well, we've been dancing around the maypole for as long as we've been burning virgins in giant wicker men, haven't we? But we don't really do that anymore, do we? Apparently, though, the custom of men and women wrapping ribbons around the maypole by dancing only dates to Victorian times. It makes sense, doesn't it? Before that, really long ribbons were much too expensive, yes. A lot of ancient customs are really Victorian. For example, the idea that each Scottish clan has its own tartan pattern. Do you know who made that up? The novelist Walter Scott. Wally. Of course, you're liable to work up quite a burning thirst dancing round a maypole, aren't you? What's the perfect drink to put out those fires? Why, Summerisle Ale, of course. And the head brewer, Lord Summerisle, as they call him, has brewed up a very special medieval ale to sell only in the first week of May. It's called a gruit. Instead of hops, it's seasoned with marsh rosemary, bog myrtle, and yarrow. Take it from me, Jack Worthing, it's got a delightful twang of peach. You can't get peaches anymore, can you? May Day gruit from Summerisle Ale quenches your burning thirst. Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again soon for more Uncle Jack.
Thanks a lot though, JX. A year is a very long time and it's very much appreciated. Trying not to talk over Uncle Jack here. Not bad, yeah, back to work in that. Normal services resumed, but I'm trying to do as many streams as I can. I'm trying not to buy any more games until I've got through the unbelievable backlog. Yeah, totally.
And now it's time for the Uncle Jack Etiquette Minute. You may be wondering, how can I fit in better in Hamlin Village? Well, it's easy. To get along, go along. If someone tells you it's a lovely day, agree with them. Because, of course, it's always a lovely day in Hamlin Village, so don't be afraid of talking to people first. They'll appreciate it. Now, I'm assuming, of course, that you're decently dressed. Huh? Clothes make the man, eh? Indeed, naked people have almost no influence at all in society. And don't dress in rags either, or people might think you're a wastrel. Now, what should you do if people are staring at you? Maybe they're asking you if you remember to take your joy. Who cares? Just pop another, and they'll congratulate you and go on about their day. And if things seem to be getting a bit hectic, remember, you can always sit on a bench, relax, and open the Hamlin au Courant. Take a load off. No one will bother you when you're sitting on a bench. Unless you've made them very angry. Well, or, I don't know, watch Jack Worthing on television. He's very good. Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in tomorrow for another Etiquette Minute with Jack Worthing. Let's move.
I think so. I'm finding it hard to tell. I know in the game they wear like a kind of smile mask. But it's hard to tell if his is face paint or a mask. It's kind of freaky if you just kind of stare at the painted part. Yeah, it's kind of freaky. We've got Wakey Wakey 4. I think we've only seen one Wakey Wakey. There is so many of these. There is so many.
Wakey Wakey, everyone. And it's another fabulous day in Wellington Wells. I've looked at the weather report for you, and apparently it's going to be variable. Isn't that a surprise? Well, be sure to bring an umbrella or two as you go out on your daily rounds, and you'll be right as rain. Right as rain. Ha! I didn't even mean it like that. Well, wakey wakey, everyone. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning, dear friends. Good morning to you.
He's freaking me out.
Well, if you're in bed, you know what to do. Hop out, yawn, stretch, and get the tea ready. While the kettle's on, be sure to take your morning joy if you haven't already. We wouldn't be British without our tea, and we wouldn't be wellies without our joy, would we? And as you're sipping your tea, be sure to smile at just how lucky we are to be in Wellington Wells, where there are always rainbows after the rain. The bobbies always smile, and no one ever feels hungry or sad. It's good to smile as early as possible in the morning. That way, you know you've had enough joy. Well, what's going on in the village of Hamlin? Ah, this is interesting. At 10 o'clock, Mr. Hewitt for the Dalrymple will be giving hopscotch lessons right out in front of Miss Chippy Park. Now, if you don't know how to hopscotch or need to brush up on the rules, be sure to attend Mr. Dalrymple's lessons. Yeah. And I see here that the Church of St. Genesius is continuing its tradition of Simon Says competitions with celebrity callers. Oh, yeah. And today, the celebrity caller is going to be Dr. Faraday. You're calling again, yeah. Well, that doesn't seem quite right, and, nope. I believe I made a mistake. I've confused myself. The celebrity caller will be Marjorie Flowerdew. And if you win the competition, Mrs. Flowerdew promises to come take a look at your flower garden, if you have one. And if you don't, she'll let you clip a few buds from hers. Well, that certainly seems worth playing for, doesn't it? So, come on, get up, get dressed, and get out there. Don't let the day slip away or you'll feel like a downer. And we can't have downers, right? Smashing. And now, the catchy new song from our favourite new band.
It kind of is. It's almost like a bunch of... I don't know if any of this content's in the game. It's almost like a bonus disc. No, it's alright. I'm just surprised by how much there is. Like, I think I've nearly watched all of them on this side. I think I've got maybe one more lock on this side, and then about 5 or 6 on that side that I've still no. There's about another 30 videos to go, I think.
And welcome to today's edition of Well, 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 the show where we talk about how to be your physical best. Now, some of you have written in about feeling malaise and lethargy. Now, these are vague symptoms, and the first thing I can recommend to you is, if you're feeling a bit down in the dumps, pop another joy. Everybody wakes up feeling a little bit down sometimes. I call it waking down. And all you need to know is that you never have to feel bad about feeling bad. In fact, you don't have to put up with it at all. Being in Wellington Wells means never having to say, I'm sorry. Now, thanks to modern English science, we have the perfect fix for the blahs. Never be afraid to up your joy. Only you know how much you need, or just ask a doctor and he'll fix you right up, even if you've got to ask him to. But look, there are some things that joy won't fix, though it'll certainly make you feel better about them. Let's say you feel perfectly happy, but you're just having a lot of trouble getting out of bed. What could it be? Ask yourself a few questions. Do you feel pain in your bones? Are you having trouble catching your breath? Do you find that you bruise easily? Are your teeth a little loose in their sockets and you're under 70 years old? Is your mouth often dry? Do you have scorbutic tongue? Other symptoms you might have are red or purple spots of the skin, especially on your legs that look like this. Do you find your muscles are sore even when you haven't been overusing them? Well, you may have scurvy. And congratulations, this is one of our traditional English enemies. And like all traditional English enemies, we've beaten it before, yes, and we'll beat it again. As you know, England has traditionally ruled the seas. Rule, Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. Britons never, never, never shall be slaves. And that means that our ships have traditionally been out at sea for long stretches at a time. Sailors used to eat nothing but ship's biscuits and salt pork. I could do with some salt pork right now. But if you eat nothing but, you're going to get sick. You see, your body needs vitamin C, but biscuits and salt pork don't have any vitamin C. So sailors and long English voyagers will get sick. And they didn't have joy to make them feel any better either. Well, a lot of Englishmen put their scientific brains to the challenge, and it was soon discovered that fresh vegetables would cure the problem right away. But how do you get fresh veg on board a boat that's not going to dock for months? Well, Captain James Cook discovered that if you took limes on board, it could cure the sailors. But how do you get sailors to drink lime juice? Well, you put it in their rum, don't you? They're not going to give up their rum, are they? Even if it tastes a bit limey. And once they were drinking their daily rum with lime juice, well, they got to liking it. And that was called grog. Yes, and that's why we Brits are called limeys, because we learned to put limes in our grog. Citrus fruits are just packed with vitamin C. So, why are you getting scurvy when you're not on a boat? Well, I'm afraid some of you have been a bit naughty. You're eating bread and meat, and you're not having your traditional English 2 veg. Some of you aren't even eating your potatoes. Imagine that. Well, bread does not contain vitamin C. And if you're eating millet bread or moss cakes, while they taste perfectly acceptable, they're not good sources of the C. And I'm sad to say, though I've developed quite a taste for it, victory meat does not contain any vitamin C at all. Canned and preserved meats are generally very poor sources of vitamin C. Now, if you were on Captain Cook's ship discovering Australia, New Zealand, and Hawaii, you'd just have a bit of grog and, well, it'd be right as English rain. But you probably haven't seen a lime or an orange or a lemon in a few years, and, well, neither have I. But not to worry. Most fresh meat contains vitamin C too. Lucky rats, they make their own vitamin C. So, if you can get some fresh meat at the butcher, you're all set. And if you can't get fresh meat, then most fresh veg contains lots of vitamin C. Now, you're going to have to restrain your cooking instincts a bit, because if you boil veg until they're nice and gummy, they'll boil out all the C, so make sure you eat some of your veg fresh. Can't get fresh veg? Remember, lots of weeds contain vitamin C. Scurvy grass is named for stopping scurvy in its tracks. Sorrel has 48 milligrams of vitamin C for every 100 grams you eat. Chicory has 24. Clover and dandelions are smashing sources of vitamin C, and they're all around us. In fact, I think it's safe to say that just about anything that's green and grows in the ground contains some vitamin C. So in a pinch, just go round to the neighbours and ask if they'd mind terribly if you ate their tulips. I'm sure they'll be reasonable. And remember, no matter what, make sure you're taking enough joy. There's no excuse anymore for feeling bad. You don't have to. Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again next time and we'll talk about malaria. It's not nearly as bad as it sounds. Most people survive it. This is Dr. Jack Worthing saying my prescription for you is stay well, well, well.
He goes a bit terrifying at the end, doesn't he? Right. Oh my god, there's never ending. How many sides is there on this? It does, aye, that's what I was thinking. He's telling me about everything, man. This is a wee music one this time. You can relax and listen to the anthem, or just anthem. Gonna get a quick wee drink of juice. There are so many of these though. I thought it was kidding on that there was actually going to be that many. It's a bit like the Flaming Lips, that one. Yep, pulled the headphones out. Well done, John. Well done. Twice then. Excellent. So we've got Famous Britons 1. There is still so many of these to go. I'll try not to talk over the top of them, but my goodness,
And
there's
now
a
it's
lot.
time for Famous Britons, the show in which Jack Worthing, that's me, interviews some of our more celebrated countrymen from history. Now today, we have in our studio Her Majesty Queen Mary, fondly known to history as Bloody Mary for massacring Protestants and marrying a Spaniard. And don't confuse me with Mary Queen of Scots either. I'll be very cross. Ah, no, of course not, Your Majesty. She was an idiot. And your sister Elizabeth had her beheaded, didn't she? Jack, that vixen Elizabeth. Do you know, I should have had her head cut off. But I didn't, because I'm a kind and merciful person. By the way, Jack, are you Catholic? Actually, I'm Anglican, like most people here. Oh dear. I think we better put you down for a beheading. After the interview, perhaps? You could convert? That sounds much more jolly. Oh, dear. You sound disappointed. Well, Jack, you've no idea how a good beheading can cheer one up. Well, I don't know about that. Have you tried joy? Joy? What's that? Well, it's this marvellous pill that makes you forget all the bad things and feel wonderful about everything else. Jack, what rubbish. What kind of queen is happy all the time? Do you know, the few times I was happy, I barely cut anyone's head off at all. Well, surely there's more to life than just beheading people. Well, we did try beheading goats for a while, but, well, it wasn't quite the same, was it? Well, what about fun and family and love? I am married to King Philip of Spain. Ah, well, you're in a bit of a jam then, aren't you? Well, fortunately, I'm dead. Well, that is one way to solve one's problems, isn't it? Jack's been lovely chatting, but I really must be off. Someone's saying my name 3 times into a mirror. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Her Majesty Queen Mary. If only she'd had joy, she might not have beheaded quite so many people. Now ask your doctor if joy is right for you. Of course it is. Next week on Famous Britons, I'll be interviewing St. Thomas of Becket. I hear he's turbulent. Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in later for more Uncle Jack.
I'm going to have to look up who this guy is that played Uncle Jack for hours, apparently, for a very long time. With old customs too. Funny old customs too. Getting to know the names of these shows too.
Welcome to Strange Foreign Customs, the show where Jack Worthing, that's me, tells you all about the bizarre and ridiculous things people do in other countries. Let's start with Forreblot. It's an Icelandic festival where you eat disgusting food. Yes, pressed pickled ram testicles, seal flippers, whale blubber, and my favourite, fermented shark. You must be wondering, how do you go around preparing that? Well, you see, you let it rot in the sand for a few months until it's not poisonous anymore, mostly, and then it smells like pneumonia. And then you hang it up to dry until it's chewy. Now, I don't care how starving I am. I'm not going to eat rotten shark, thank you very much. Of course, everyone knows Santa brings presents. But what happens to the men and women who've been naughty? Coal in their socks, right? Actually, I'd love some coal on a cold night. But in Czechoslovakia, they get a visit from the terrifying Krampus. He carts off evil people to be eaten. Do I have your attention now? Now, I know you've all been good this year. And if you haven't, well, I don't want to hear about it. But wouldn't it be fun to dress up as a Krampus and scare wicked people? Now, when I was traveling in Mexico back in, well, I can't remember when, but I found the most enchanting, strange custom. It's called a piñata. And we have one right here. Here he is. It's a large, colourful, paper-mâché sculpture, you see, and it's filled with sweets. And you're supposed to smash it until all the sweets come out, and it turns out the custom isn't Mexican at all. It's Spanish, and originally the sculptures are made of clay pots. Wouldn't that be fun? Smashing a clay pot full of treats? You know, it's sort of the reverse of what you do with downers. Smash them until you can get the joy into them. Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again soon for more Uncle Jack.
Ah, right. Jack Worthing, mostly known by his stage name Uncle Jack, is a comedian, TV and radio host of the Wellington Wells broadcast services and We Happy Few. He is viewed as the smiling face of Wellington Wells by the general population. Just read his entire backstory. Aye. He certainly is, though. I mean, I've seen him for hours tonight. I don't even know what time it is in the real world. Wakey Wakey, though, I guess.
Wakey Wakey, everyone. It's another lovely day in Wellington Wells. Now, in case we have any visitors today, here are a few tips that will help you get along with everyone. And the most important one, of course, is don't forget to take your joy. And drink plenty of water, too. Fortunately, there's joy in the water. And eat plenty of nutritious food. And I'll be the first to recommend our local delicacy, V-meat. Of course, be very careful to stay away from downers. Fortunately, most of them live in the Garden District, and, well, no decent person goes there. It's full of dangerous maniacs and lunatics. If someone's dressed in rags, tell them to go back where they belong, and obey all official signs. They're for your safety and protection. Make friends with your fellow citizens. Talk to them, visit them. Wellies love a friendly guest. And we Wellies do love our games. It's important to stay young at heart. So use our playgrounds. Well, after all, if you don't, who on earth will? And obey police officers. They're there to protect you. Remember, they're the only ones who are allowed out at night. Wellington Wells is a delightful place. If you just do like everybody else and you take your joy, you'll have a splendid time. And if you don't, well, one less mouth to feed, eh?
I can't believe it's 1:30 in the morning. Been playing this for ages. I hear you.
And now it's time for I Hear You, the show where Jack Worthing, that's me, answers your letters and questions about our life in beautiful Wellington Wells. This one is from Richard Starkey of Biddleston Road. Dear Uncle Jack, is it true there are blind albino mole people living beneath our fair city? That's what my friends say. I thought I saw one too, but I wasn't sure, as we'd all had a bit too much to drink, and my memory, of course, is a bit fuzzy. Dear Richard, of course there aren't mole people. This isn't London. There are no ancient catacombs or old bomb shelters underneath our streets. And of course the Wellington Under is completely blocked up. Human beings have not suddenly grown claws to make their own tunnels through the dirt, thank goodness. What an imagination your friend has. Now, of course, there are the poor benighted wastrels in the Garden District, which is reason enough not to go there if you need a reason.
Night,
Not to
man.
mention the unexploded
Cheers
bombs,
for tuning in, dude.
scraps of metal and holes that you can fall into. And I don't need to tell you about how dangerous it is outside the walls. I wouldn't even think about going there. But you can be perfectly sure that absolutely no one is moving around underneath the pavement. Well, I'm glad that's settled. This one is from John Lydon of Benwell Road. Dear Jack. Well, I guess he isn't the sort of fellow to cry uncle, Mr. Lydon? Dear Jack, there's a stranger in my house who looks just like my wife. And she says she's my wife too. What has been done with my real wife, and who did this to me? Your help is much appreciated in this matter. Well, it looks like Mr. Lydon has been experiencing one of the odd side effects of joy. Now, it does happen from time to time. It's called Capgras delusion, and it's not unheard of. Mr. Lydon, if you're listening, go see a doctor. They may be able to adjust your dose or give you an analog. And if anyone who's listening that actually knows Mr. Lydon, who lives on Benwell Road, do inform a nearby doctor that Mr. Lydon might need a visit. I'm sure everything will come out roses. And remember, by the way, don't hesitate to go see a doctor if you need any medical attention. They'll fix up that cut right away. They always check your joy level and make sure that it's where it should be. Good. This one is from Edwin Powell of Hoylake. Dear Mr. Worthing. Oh, Edwin. Let's be friends, shall we? Actually, I'm just going to edit this one a bit. Dear Uncle Jack, I was cleaning out my garage and I came up with a big pile of newspapers from the war. Yes, well, I'm not going to read the rest of this letter because I know exactly what you should do. What do you do with a bunch of old newspaper? Well, it's the perfect thing to use to light a fire in your fireplace. The older and drier the paper, the better. Now, I wouldn't recommend using it to wrap fish. First of all, because, well, I haven't seen a fish in years. And second, because you're not a fish shop. And third of all, the paper does get a bit crumbly and you don't want that on your food. So just burn it all up on a cold night and you'll be glad you did. Yes, what a strange bunch of letters we have today. I'm wondering if we ought to quit while we're ahead. All right, we'll give it one more go, shall we? Ah, it smells like roses. Dear Uncle Jack. Yes, I forgot to mention who it's from. This is a... Take another whiff. Yes, definitely rose. I wasn't mistaken. It's from Susan Jane Ballion of Chislehurst Vicarage. And she writes, Dear Uncle Jack, I keep getting lost in my own neighbourhood. I've lived there all my life, but lately it seems like they're moving the buildings around on me. It's most disconcerting. I'm not old or anything, and I haven't been hit on the head, at least not that I remember. They're not actually moving the buildings, are they? That's what she asked. Dear Susie. May I call you Susie? I think it suits you. Dear Susie, I'm glad to say that you clearly are taking your joy. Joy is what helps us forget the past and move into the radiant future. And getting lost is just a mild side effect. Fortunately, there's an easy solution. Carry a map. Actually, in fact, carry one in each pocket. That way you don't have to remember which pocket your map is in. You know, I'm so delighted when I can so easily help a listener. And here we are. Yes, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again tomorrow for more advice and news from our listeners and watchers. This is Jack Worthing saying cheerio, and on with your day. See you soon.
I honestly can't believe how many of these are in here. Is that the last one on this side? Is this the original an instant trailer. It's mad how much I've watched. I've never played. I was going to say Here They Lie. We Happy Few, that's what it's called.
Wakey wakey, everyone. It's another fabulous day in Wellington Wells. The weather is only slightly rainy with streaks of lovely sunshine. Everyone in Wellington Wells is doing exactly what he or she ought to. Smiling and laughing and taking their joy. What about you?
That's right. I'm talking to you. Are you doing what you should? Of course you are. After all, you're not a downer, are you? We know what to do about downers, don't we?
Now, some people have asked me what to do about the happy, excited throngs running through the street.
What you should do is...
Join the fun!
There's so many. Maybe make this a part one, come back and do the other ones, because it's
And now it's time
so late.
for Funny Old Customs, the show in which Jack Worthing, that's me, illuminates our jolly island's ancient customs. Today, we're going to talk about human sacrifice. Yes, many of our forebears enjoyed a human sacrifice or two, and I'm not just talking about watching a good hanging, like we did during the... Never mind, sometimes I don't even know what I'm talking about. Well, the most famous British sacrifices were the ancient Celts. According to Julius Caesar, their druids liked to put criminals and prisoners of war into giant wicker men and then set them on fire. Wow, what a sight that must have been. And if you don't think we can trust the Romans, then how about the bog bodies? Yes, we found beautifully preserved bodies in peat marshes, and some of them show evidence of having been strangled, drowned, and stabbed to death. That's how you propitiate a god, eh? Makes you wonder if anybody's buried under Stonehenge, eh? And if they are, who's under our own little henge, the wedding party stones? Maybe someone should check. Of course, all this was before we Anglo-Saxons became an island race. Back then, we were pagans and worshipped dark gods. The darkest and most important of the gods was Wotan, whereas the Vikings called him Odin. He was a war god. Well, perhaps he still is a war god. And the Vikings would sacrifice 99 men and women in a great blot to make sure he stayed happy. That's a long way from Abraham and Isaac, isn't it? Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Maybe someday we'll talk about the ancient Aztecs of Mexico, who liked to cut a man's heart out while it was still beating. Fortunately, no one does it anymore, as far as I know. Well, you never know what goes on in the Garden District, do you? At least, I hope you don't. Well, remember me in your prayers, whoever it is you're praying to. And tune in again soon for more Uncle Jack.
This one sounds good. Future House. Department of Scientific and Industrial Researches.
Have you ever wondered what life will be like 20 years into the future? That would be the year 1984. Yes, it sounds like a very long way away, doesn't it? But 1984 may be closer than you think. At the Wellington Wells House of the Future, you can imagine yourself in 1984 when machines will clean your house while you nap. That'll make the wife happy, won't it? And we'll also have pills that replace food, so you'll never have to eat again. Beef Wellington. Delicious. Now, the inventors at the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research have all sorts of amazing things in store. We'll have typewriters that type the words for you as you say them. And imagine being able to listen to your own music anywhere you go. In phone booths. Yes, there'll be a built-in record player. Just bring your favorite records along when you go for a spin in your flying car. And of course, We'll always have our joy. We couldn't do without that, could we? It won't change a bit. It's perfect, just the way it is.
I like that he isn't taking it. You can see that he's concealing them. Right. No Future House. The one above that. 1998. Just the end of Hansel and Gretel, maybe. I'll come back and do the other side tomorrow night, I think. It's too many.
Well, it's getting late, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, man.
And it's time for all good citizens to hop into bed for the night.
Yeah.
Would you like me to read you a bedtime story?
I suppose, Jack.
Of course you would. I haven't finished the story of Hansel and Gretel.
That's right.
Well, snuggle up by your telly or radio, and I'll tell you how it ends. When we left Hansel and Gretel, their son had just abandoned them in the woods for the second time. But Hansel and Gretel had cleverly left a trail of breadcrumbs for them to find their way back. But it was a very hard winter, and starving birds had already pecked up all of the breadcrumbs. And snow began to fall, which covered up anything the birds had left. Hansel and Gretel could not find their way home. Instead, they only wandered deeper into the woods. After 3 days of trudging in the snow without anything to eat, they were on the verge of dying of exposure when they came upon a small house. A white bird stood upon the roof in spite of the snow, and now and then pecked at it. And so they realized that the entire house was made out of gingerbread, and the windows were made out of clear sugar. They were starving, of course, so Hansel helped himself to a chunk of the eaves, while Gretel broke off some of the window frame, which was made of frosting. Then a voice came from inside.
Nibble, nibble, little mouse. Who's nibbling at my house?
They answered, It's only the wind which nibbles away at all things. But then Gretel poked her finger through the window in order to break off a piece of the clear sugar, and a witch suddenly came out of the house. Now you see, they could tell she was a witch because she was beautiful and young. But she moved carefully, like someone who had once been old. Now they expected her to be angry, but she was kind, or so she seemed.
You poor dears, she said. Come into my house and sit by the fire, and you can have all the gingerbread and cake you like.
And they ate gingerbread and cake and pancakes, and soon they fell asleep, for they were exhausted. But the witch was only pretending to be kind to Hansel and Gretel. Really, she intended to cook and eat them. In fact, she had made the gingerbread house in order to lure someone to eat. For witches believe, I am told, that if you eat someone, you get their power. Hansel woke up in a cell made not of sugar, but iron bars and oak beams. And cry as he might, no help came to him. And the witch woke Gretel, saying,
Get up. Cook a nice meal for your husband, for he's to be fattened up.
So Gretel cooked up an omelette full of cheese and pancakes and biscuits. Biscuits for breakfast? Well, it might have been wonderful if it wasn't so evil. And the witch watched Hansel eat, planning how to cook him up. But then Gretel hit her hard as she could in the head with the firewood axe, and the witch never looked at anything again. Some say Gretel did something cleverer to the witch, like tricking her into the oven. But it doesn't pay to be too clever, you know. Gretel let her husband out of his cell, and the two of them rejoiced and ate as much of the house as they could stomach. And as they munched and crunched the house, they discovered there were pearls and precious stones hidden in the gingerbread. Hansel filled his pockets, and Gretel filled her apron. By now, the sun had come out, and Hansel and Gretel were able to work out which way their home was. So they walked home,
excited to tell their son all about the pearls and rubies and sapphires they'd found in the house. The woodcutter's wife answered their door. The woodcutter's wife... Here it comes. The woodcutter's wife answered the door and, well, Gretel quickly cut her down with an axe. Good old Gretel. And her son quickly forgave her, for blood is thicker than water. And the moral of the story is, if you want someone dead, do it yourself. Well, no, that's not actually the moral of the story. This story doesn't have a moral. Good stories never do. Well, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in tomorrow evening, and I'll tell you the rest of the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's a lovely story, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the rest of it. For now, this is Jack Worthing saying good night all. See you in the morning.
Okay, let's go for Wakey Wakey 3. We should have done the other one first. We should have done 98 last, but here we go.
And it's another brilliant day in Wellington Wells. The weather is a little rainy, but I think I can assure you that it's going to dry up to merely a bit overcast. That's the wonderful thing about English weather. You always know you're going to get a little bit of rain, but it's never going to be too cold or too hot. Well, it's not time to hibernate, and you're not a bear, so come on out. Or if you are a bear, then I'm very impressed that you know how to turn on a television set. Wakey, wakey, everyone. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning, dear friends. Good morning to you. Well, I was up all night fretting. I'm joking. I had a fantastic night's sleep. Actually, I can't remember a single thing about last night. And that's how I like it. How about you? If you're taking your joy, then you shouldn't have any trouble sleeping. And if you missed some, well, what on earth are you waiting for? Get back on your dose. And I think I can promise you your day will go as sweet as a summer breeze. Well, what's going on today in the village of Hamlin? The circus is coming to town. Ha ha! No, I'm sorry, I fooled you. It's just going to be a regular, wonderful, ordinary, spectacular day. But of course, we'll interrupt the day because, well, we love to do that, with our daily recreational activity. What are we going to do for fun today? Well, how about Simon Says? I love Simon Says, don't you? It's been too long since we've played it, hasn't it? Now, I'm a bit vague about the details. No, really. So, I think we ought to play it today, just to be sure. Well, you can never be too careful. So at 3, gather in front of the telly for a rousing round of Simon Says. No, wait. I didn't say Simon Says gather. No, stop. We're not playing it yet, so you're all right. And don't forget, there will be cake and prizes for all winners, and everyone's a winner, and everyone will be there. So don't miss it, or you'll stick out like a downer. You can't have downers, right? Brilliant. And now, the catchy new song from our favourite new band.
Nice. So, I mean, we listen to every single thing on the right-hand side, which is a lot. So you got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 5. So that's 40 different ones on that side and 5 there. So we've done 45 of them. So when we come back tomorrow, we'll do this other side, which I guess got another 35 to go. But cheers everybody for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that. It was really weird. But yeah, I'll come back and do the rest of it tomorrow. Let me see if I can recalibrate. There we go. Yes. So there you go. Quite a long time in Uncle Jack Live. We're just going to jump back into the archive to see if it saved. See if it saves all the ones that you've unlocked, or if you just have to do it each time. Yeah, it did actually. Fair enough. Cool. So, cheers again everybody for tuning in. I'll hopefully see you again very soon. I can't believe it is like 2 in the morning. Cheers for the chat. GX. And he subscribed again, I didn't even notice. I feel terrible. Cheers, another TV viewer. Odyssey IA. Bag of Knives. Cax Ips. 06. Lana Ray. And Sega Dream. I can't read. It's too late in the evening. Cheers again, everybody. Night. Bye. Bye. Hopefully see you again soon. Take good sleeps. Night night. Bye. Bye.